The moment I hit the water, time slowed down. Each bubble rising past my face felt like it was mocking me as I sank deeper into the crystal-clear pool. My legs, trapped in their heavy casts, pulled me down like anchors while chlorinated water filled my nose and mouth. The worst part wasn't the burning in my lungs or the panic gripping my chest. It was seeing my stepsister Mia's perfectly manicured hands holding her phone steady above me, recording every second of my struggle. The sunlight dancing through the water created the perfect lighting for her viral video moment, while I fought desperately to keep my head above water. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and 3 minutes ago, I was sitting safely at the edge of our family pool during Mia's 21st birthday party. Now, I was fighting for my life while party guests gathered around, phones raised, assuming this was just another one of Mia's famous pranks. The casts on both my legs, bright white against the blue water, were from a car accident 2 weeks ago, an accident that had already cost me my swimming scholarship interviews. But Mia knew that. She knew everything about my recovery because she lived for creating content from other people's misfortunes, especially mine. Through the water, I could hear muffled laughter and cheering. My father's voice carried across the pool. "That's my girl, always keeping us entertained." He meant Mia, of course. He always meant Mia. The water pressure squeezed against my chest as I tried to push myself up with my arms, but the casts were too heavy. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision as I watched Mia adjust her camera angle for the perfect shot of her dramatic stepsister. Just when my lungs were about to burst, strong hands gripped under my arms. Marcus, our pool maintenance worker, had jumped in fully clothed. As he pulled me to the surface, I heard Mia's annoyed voice. "Oh my God, Marcus, way to ruin the shot." I was going for a whole drowning suspense thing. I broke the surface gasping, water streaming from my nose and mouth, my soaked clothes clinging to my body while Marcus helped me to the pool's edge. My stepmother, Susan, rushed forward, but not to check on me. "Mia, honey, that lighting was perfect. Make sure you get the reaction shots, too," she exclaimed, adjusting her designer sundress. I sat shivering on the pool deck, casts waterlogged, while party guests crowded around Mia to watch the replay. The worst part? This wasn't even the first time something like this had happened. It was just the most dangerous in a long line of pranks that had been escalating ever since my dad married Susan 3 years ago. "This is going to get so many views," Mia squealed, already adding filters to her video. "I'm thinking sister's splashing success or maybe pool prank goes wrong, not clickbait." She barely glanced at me as Marcus wrapped a towel around my shoulders. My dad stood behind her, grinning proudly at his stepdaughter's creativity. Nobody seemed to notice or care that my casts were ruined or that I was struggling to breathe. Nobody except Marcus, who quietly asked if I wanted him to call an ambulance. I shook my head, water dripping from my hair, and watched as my family celebrated another viral moment at my expense. But this time was different. This time, Mia had gone too far. As I sat there, lungs still burning and legs throbbing, I made a decision. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that single push into the pool, would change everything. Not just for me, but for Mia, whose perfect life was about to face a very different kind of viral attention. Some people say karma isn't real, but I was about to learn that justice comes in many forms, and sometimes it starts with a single splash. Looking back, I should have seen this coming. The signs were there from the very first day Mia and Susan moved into our house. I remember standing in our driveway watching their glossy BMW pull up beside my beat-up Honda Civic. Mia stepped out like she was walking onto a red carpet, phone already in hand, recording her new life reveal. I was 16 then, she was 18, and my dad was beaming like he'd won the lottery. "Sarah, come welcome your new sister," he called out, but Mia was already brushing past me, declaring my room had the best lighting, and she'd need it for her content. That first week, I lost my room, my bathroom, and my peace. "Sarah doesn't mind sharing the smaller bedroom, do you, honey?" Susan had suggested, her perfectly lined lips curved in what I'd come to recognize as her manipulation smile. Dad agreed before I could even respond. It's all about compromising for family, he'd said, helping Mia move my things into what was basically a glorified closet. I found my swimming trophies in the trash that night, Mia claiming they didn't match her aesthetic. The small things started piling up like stones in my pocket. My shampoo would mysteriously empty overnight. My car keys would vanish minutes before swim practice, only to reappear after I'd missed it. Each time I tried to tell Dad, Mia would cry about how hard it was being the new kid in the family. "Can't you just try harder to get along?" became his constant refrain, while Susan would pat his arm and whisper about teenage girls and their drama. But it wasn't just drama. My homework would disappear from my laptop, supposedly due to computer glitches that only seemed to happen when I had major assignments due. My swimming gear would develop mysterious tears right before meets. Each incident was perfectly designed to look like an accident, and each one was secretly filmed for Mia's growing social media audience. Stepsister Fails became her most popular content series. The real turning point came during my senior year swim championship qualifiers. I'd been ranked first in the state, with college scouts coming to watch. The morning of the meet, I found my competition swimsuit cut into perfect strips, laid out on my bed like some twisted art project. When I confronted Mia, she turned on the waterworks. "I was just trying to customize it for you. I wanted to help you stand out for the scouts," she sobbed. Dad grounded me for a week for accusing her without proof. I had to swim in my practice suit, adding crucial seconds to my time. The scouts left before my final event, and my dreams of a full scholarship slipped away. That night, I heard Mia on the phone with her friends. "It's not my fault she can't handle a little competition. Besides, college is so basic. Being an influencer is where the real money is." Marcus started working for us around that time. He was the only one who seemed to notice what was really happening. He'd find my things in strange places, my goggles in the pool filter, my textbooks behind the garden shed. He never said much, just quietly returned them with a knowing look. Once, I overheard him confronting Mia. "You know what you're doing is wrong." She'd laughed it off, but her next viral video was about creepy pool guys who didn't know their place. The car accident 2 weeks ago wasn't an accident at all. I knew it the moment I saw Mia's quickly deleted TikTok about testing her mechanic skills. The brake lines in my car had been cut just enough to fail when I hit them hard. The police called it a tragic coincidence, but Marcus found the video before it disappeared completely. He saved it, just like he'd been saving evidence of everything else. "Sometimes," he told me while helping me with my casts, "you need to wait for the right moment to show people who they really are." Now, as I sat by the pool watching my family fawn over Mia's latest prank video, I realized that moment had finally come. My wet casts felt heavy, but not as heavy as the years of proof sitting in Marcus's phone. What Mia didn't know was that her perfect viral moment was about to become her biggest downfall. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and I was finally ready to give it a push. I didn't plan for everything to unravel on the day my grandfather came to visit, but looking back, it couldn't have happened any other way. He showed up unannounced the morning after the pool incident while I was struggling to get down the stairs with my ruined casts. The doctors had said they'd need to be replaced, but Dad was too busy helping Mia edit her video to drive me to the hospital. Grandpa Richard took one look at me and his face turned the color of storm clouds. "What in God's name happened to you?" he asked, helping me to the couch. Before I could answer, Mia bounded down the stairs, phone in hand as always. "Oh my gosh, Grandpa Dick! You have to see my latest video. It's about to hit 3 million views." She didn't notice how his hands tightened on his cane as she played the footage of me drowning, complete with upbeat background music and cute emoji overlays. The look on his face changed from concern to something I'd never seen before. Pure, cold fury. "Turn that garbage off," he said quietly. Mia, absorbed in her analytics, kept talking about engagement rates and sponsorship offers. "I said turn it off?" His voice cracked like thunder, making everyone freeze. Dad and Susan rushed in from the kitchen, all forced smiles and nervous energy. "Dad, it's just a bit of fun," my father started, but Grandpa Richard held up his hand, silencing him with a gesture I remembered from my childhood, the one that meant serious trouble was coming. Fun? His voice was deadly quiet. You call watching your daughter drown fun, Robert? The girl who spent every summer helping me maintain that pool? The one who taught swimming lessons to kids with disabilities? He turned to Mia, who was still trying to film the dramatic moment. Put that damn phone down before I throw it in the pool myself. For once, Mia listened, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. That's when Grandpa dropped the bomb that would change everything. The pool house was never meant for you, Mia, he said, pulling papers from his jacket. I signed it over to Sarah on her 16th birthday, the day she saved that epileptic child from drowning during her first teaching session. It's been in a trust, waiting for her 21st birthday. The silence that followed was deafening. Mia's face went from shocked to furious in seconds. But you promised it to me, she shrieked. I've already told my followers I'm turning it into a content creation studio. I have sponsors lined up. Grandpa Richard just shook his head, handing me the trust paperwork. I never promised you anything. That's the problem with your generation. Always assuming everything belongs to you just because you want it. Dad tried to intervene, spouting something about family sharing, but Grandpa wasn't finished. I've seen every single one of your videos, Mia. Every prank, every accident. I've watched my granddaughter suffer while you turned her life into your personal reality show. He turned to my father, his voice heavy with disappointment. And you let it happen. Your own daughter, Robert. What would her mother say? The mention of my mom, who we'd lost to cancer when I was 12, hit Dad like a physical blow. For the first time, he really looked at me, saw the wet casts, the exhaustion, the years of hurt in my eyes. Something cracked in his perfect stepfather facade. Sarah, I didn't realize. But Mia wasn't about to let the attention shift from her. This is ridiculous. I need that pool house. My followers are expecting it. I've already spent money on renovations. That's when Marcus, who'd been quietly cleaning the pool, spoke up. Actually, you might want to check those contractor receipts again. They're all forgeries. I have proof right here. He held up his phone, showing a folder of documentation I didn't even know he had. Grandpa Richard smiled for the first time that morning. Looks like your viral fame is about to take a different turn, young lady. As Mia's perfectly curated world began to crumble, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The pool house keys felt warm in my hand, a promise of something new, something mine, but I had no idea just how far Mia would go to try to keep her perfect online life from falling apart. The next few days unfolded like a viral video in slow motion. Mia's pool prank hit 5 million views, but the comments weren't what she expected. Someone, I later found out it was Marcus's teenage daughter, had uploaded the security camera footage showing Mia deliberately pushing me in, knowing about my casts. The internet's love for pranks quickly turned to outrage. "This isn't funny, it's attempted murder," became the top comment. Mia's carefully curated image started cracking at the edges. She tried damage control, posting a tearful apology video from my old bedroom. Better lighting, of course. "I didn't mean to hurt my sister," she sobbed into the camera, perfect makeup running artistically down her cheeks. "We were just trying to create fun family content." But the internet is like a shark that smells blood. Someone started digging through her old videos, creating compilations of every prank she'd pulled on me. The car accident video resurfaced, along with her deleted mechanical experiments. Suddenly, her sponsors weren't returning her calls. Dad finally took me to get my casts replaced, sitting silently in the hospital waiting room. I caught him watching one of the compilation videos on his phone, flinching at each clip. The doctor asked how my casts got wet. Before Dad could spin another story about accidents, I told the truth. My stepsister pushed me into a pool for views. The look on the doctor's face must have hit something in Dad. He walked out of the room and threw up in the hallway trash can. Susan wasn't handling the situation any better. Her real estate clients started pulling out, not wanting to work with someone whose family had gone viral for all the wrong reasons. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she screamed at me that night. "Your sister's career is ruined." I just looked at her, 3 years of pain behind my words. She's not my sister, and she ruined her own career the moment she decided views were worth more than my life. The pool house became my sanctuary. While Mia's world imploded online, I started cleaning years of neglect from what would soon be mine. Marcus helped me sort through boxes of old pool supplies and forgotten furniture. We found my mom's old teaching logs, detailed notes about every swimming student she'd ever had. "She was the best instructor this pool ever saw," Marcus said quietly. "Used to teach kids everyone else had given up on." That's when the idea started forming. But Mia wasn't going down without a fight. I woke up one morning to find her and 3 contractor friends trying to change the pool house locks. Marcus caught them on camera, adding another nail to Mia's reputation coffin. She'd paid them with bad checks, promising the property was hers. Now they were threatening legal action too. Her perfect influencer life was unraveling thread by thread. The final straw came when her followers discovered she'd been buying views and followers for years. Her empire was built on lies, and the internet loves nothing more than watching a fake queen fall. Brand deals vanished overnight. Her management team dropped her. Even her loyal followers started unfollowing in droves. Each morning brought a new crisis, and each crisis pushed her closer to the edge. Dad started sleeping in his study, avoiding both Susan's accusations and Mia's tantrums. I overheard him on the phone with Mom's sister, something he hadn't done in years. "I messed up, Kate," he said, voice breaking. "I let someone hurt my little girl. Helen would be so ashamed of me." Aunt Kate must have said something that hit hard because I found him looking through old photo albums that night, lingering over pictures of Mom teaching me to swim in the same pool that had almost become my death trap. Grandpa Richard came by daily, helping me plan renovations for the pool house. "Your mother always said this place had healing powers," he told me, watching kids play in the neighborhood beyond our fence. Maybe it's time it helped heal people again. Looking at those old teaching logs, feeling the warmth of the sun through the windows Mom had loved so much, I knew exactly what I needed to do. But first, I had to deal with Mia's latest scheme. She'd just announced to her remaining followers that she was moving into the pool house anyway, claiming family squatters' rights. Sometimes karma needs a little patience, and mine was about to pay off in ways none of us expected. Things hit rock bottom when Mia's first round of credit card bills arrived. Turns out she'd been living on borrowed money for months, charging everything from designer clothes to fake followers to her emergency cards. She'd even taken out high-interest loans to maintain her influencer lifestyle, convinced her next viral video would cover the costs. Now, with sponsors dropping her daily and her follower count plummeting, those bills were coming due. I heard her screaming at Susan through my bedroom wall, "You have to help me. I spent that money building our brand." But Susan had problems of her own. Dad's real estate firm was losing clients faster than autumn leaves falling from trees. Nobody wanted to work with the family whose daughter filmed herself endangering a disabled person. Their perfect image was worth exactly nothing now. I overheard Susan on the phone with her sister. How was I supposed to know she was actually hurting people? I thought she was just being creative. The desperation in her voice almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. That's when Mia started getting desperate. First, she tried selling her designer clothes and bags online, but her reputation followed her. "Isn't this the girl from the pool video?" Commenters would ask, and potential buyers would vanish. Then she tried launching a comeback apology tour, but every interview just dug her deeper. "I was just giving people what they wanted," she'd say, somehow making everything worse. One reporter actually walked out mid-interview when Mia suggested I should be grateful for the exposure. The pool house renovation was coming along nicely, though. Marcus and I spent every free moment cleaning, painting, and planning. We converted the old changing rooms into small therapy spaces, painted the walls in calming blues and greens. "My daughter's doing the artwork," Marcus told me one day, showing me beautiful underwater murals his 16-year-old had designed. "She says it's her way of saying sorry for all the times she watched Mia's videos and didn't speak up." Dad started coming around more, awkwardly trying to help. He'd bring coffee in the mornings, hover around like a guilty ghost. One day, while we were installing new safety rails, he finally broke down. "I keep thinking about the day you learned to swim," he said, hands shaking around his coffee cup. "You were so scared, but your mom just held you in the water, singing that silly song about starfish until you forgot to be afraid." He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. When did I forget how brave you are? Mia's next scheme involved trying to sell exclusive rights to her story to drama channels and tea-spilling YouTubers, but they'd already picked her apart, using her own content against her. The car tampering video became particularly damning when a mechanic broke down exactly how she'd sabotaged my brakes. "This wasn't a prank," he explained to millions of viewers. "This was premeditated." The police started asking questions again, this time with less patience for tears and excuses. Everything came to a head when Grandpa Richard called a family meeting. He arrived with his lawyer, a stern woman named Patricia who'd apparently been documenting everything for years. "The pool house transfer becomes official next week," she announced, sliding papers across our dining room table. "Any attempts to interfere will result in immediate legal action." Mia started her usual waterworks, but Patricia just talked over her. "Additionally, we have evidence of multiple criminal acts that we're prepared to submit to authorities." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Mia's phone pinging with another bank overdraft notice. Susan clutched her designer handbag like a shield, while Dad stared at his hands. I sat there, my newscasts propped on a chair, watching the family that had ignored my pain for so long finally face consequences. But it wasn't vindication I felt, just a quiet certainty that things were finally changing. That evening, as Marcus and I finished painting the pool house office, I found Mom's old lesson plans in a dusty file cabinet. "Swimming therapy for special needs children," the folder read. Inside, in her beautiful handwriting, was everything I needed to know about turning this place into something meaningful, something that would help people instead of hurting them. Mia might have chased views, but I was about to chase something much more valuable: redemption. The day I officially got the keys to the pool house, Mia tried one last desperate move. She showed up with a small camera crew from a reality TV show, claiming they were doing a documentary about family reconciliation. I watched from the pool house window as Marcus firmly escorted them off the property. "But it's a healing journey," Mia wailed, perfectly posed for the cameras. "I'm trying to make amends." The producers looked uncomfortable, probably realizing they'd been sold a different story than what they found. That night, I overheard her true feelings through my bedroom wall. "I don't care about making amends." That pool house was supposed to be my content studio. I had everything planned: sponsorships, merchandise launches, meet and greets. "She's ruining everything." Her voice cracked with genuine desperation. "The bank's threatening to freeze my accounts. They say I've defaulted on 3 loans. Susan's response was equally telling. "Well, maybe if you hadn't spent $40,000 on that fake follower farm." I spent that weekend moving my things into the pool house apartment, away from the chaos of the main house. Marcus helped me set up security cameras and change all the locks. "Just in case," he said, but we both knew it wasn't just in case. Mia had already tried breaking in twice, claiming she'd forgotten something inside. Each attempt was caught on camera, each video saved carefully to a growing file of evidence. Dad hovered around the edges of my move, carrying boxes and trying to make small talk. He stopped short when we uncovered Mom's old swimming certificates on the wall. "She really built something special here," he said quietly, touching her name on the faded paper. "All those kids she helped. I forgot about that. After she died, it was easier to forget everything." I watched him trace her signature, seeing the weight of his choices in the slump of his shoulders. The first sign that Mia's house of cards was truly collapsing came in the form of official-looking letters, lots of them. Credit card companies demanding payment, brands wanting their advance payments back after discovering her fake engagement numbers. Even her car was repossessed. I watched from my new window as she chased the tow truck down our street, phone raised to film what she probably thought would be a sympathy-generating viral moment. But the internet had moved on. Her attempts at comeback content fell flat. "Remember when that pool girl tried to drown her disabled sister?" Someone commented on her latest video. "Now she's trying to act like nothing happened." Her follower count dropped below 10,000, a death sentence for someone who'd once boasted millions. Each failed post made her more desperate, her content becoming increasingly erratic. Susan started taking anxiety medication, her perfect facade cracking under the strain. The real estate agency asked her to take a leave of absence after she broke down crying during a house showing, telling the potential buyers all about her daughter's misunderstood creative expression. Dad spent more time at the pool house, quietly helping me restore Mom's old office. One day, he found her lesson playlist, songs she'd used to help nervous kids feel comfortable in the water. We both pretended not to see each other crying. Meanwhile, I focused on bringing Mom's vision back to life. Marcus's daughter finished the underwater murals, transforming the pool house into something magical. Local parents started reaching out, asking if I'd consider teaching special needs swimming lessons like Mom used to. Each inquiry felt like a sign that I was on the right path. I hired a physical therapist to consult on adapting the space for kids with different abilities. The real turning point came when Mia's old videos started being used in social media ethics classes. The dangers of prank culture became a trending topic, with her content as the prime example of what not to do. She tried to spin it as a positive. I'm educating people. But the mounting legal fees from her various bad decisions were catching up. I heard her crying in her room one night, really crying, not the perfect influencer tears she'd perfected for the camera. I don't know how to be normal anymore, she sobbed to Susan. Everything was supposed to be perfect. My followers were supposed to love me forever. For the first time since I'd known her, Mia sounded like a real person instead of a carefully curated persona, but it was too late for sympathy. The consequences of her actions were finally catching up, and no amount of filtered content could fix what she'd broken. One morning, I woke up to find Mia sitting by the pool, staring at her phone with red eyes. Her designer clothes had been replaced by simple jeans and a t-shirt, probably all she had left after selling most of her wardrobe to pay debts. For a moment, she looked so lost that I almost felt sorry for her. Then I noticed she was watching her old prank videos, including the one of my near drowning, muttering about the good old days. Those days weren't good for everyone, I said, making her jump. She hadn't heard me approach with my crutches. My casts were finally coming off next week, but the doctors said I'd need physical therapy to regain full strength. Mia looked at me, then back at her phone, her carefully maintained mask cracking around the edges. I just wanted to be special, she whispered. Everyone loved watching those videos. They made me feel important. Important enough to kill me? I asked quietly. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I wasn't trying to. I didn't think. For once, she didn't have a script to follow, no perfect camera angle to hide behind. The views kept getting better every time I pulled a prank on you. People would comment asking for more. It became like a drug, you know? I needed bigger reactions, better content. She laughed bitterly. Now look at me. I'm trending again, but as the villain. Inside the house, I could hear Susan arguing with another debt collector on the phone. Dad's real estate firm had asked him to take a leave of absence until the family situation settled down. Their perfect world was crumbling, and they had no idea how to live in the ruins. I watched Mia scroll through her dwindling social media accounts, double-tapping old posts like she could somehow revive her dead career. The pool house was ready for its first students next week. I'd hired 2 certified therapy assistants and converted Mom's old office into a sensory-friendly waiting room. Marcus had installed special equipment for kids with mobility issues, and his daughter's murals made the whole place feel magical. While Mia's life fell apart, I was building something real, something that would actually help people. That afternoon, a process server showed up with more bad news for Mia. 3 different companies were suing her for breach of contract. Apparently, she'd taken their sponsorship money, but never delivered the promised content. She'd been too busy planning more pranks to fulfill her obligations. The server had to chase her around the yard as she tried to avoid taking the papers, probably thinking she could turn it into content somehow. But her phone was dead, and no one was watching anymore. Dad found me later, sitting in Mom's old office. He looked older than I'd ever seen him, tie loose around his neck. I kept all her teaching certificates, he said, gesturing to the walls where I'd hung Mom's qualifications. After she died, I packed them away because it hurt too much to look at them. But you're bringing her dream back to life here. He picked up one of the sensory toys we'd bought for the waiting room. She always said everyone deserves a chance to feel safe in the water. Mia's latest scheme involved trying to pitch a redemption reality show about rebuilding family bonds through social media healing. Every network turned her down. One producer actually laughed during her pitch meeting. I heard her screaming about it through the walls. Her influencer friends stopped returning her calls, afraid her toxicity would rub off on their brands. She was learning the hard way that internet fame is as fragile as trust. That night, I sat by the pool, listening to Mom's old playlist, the same songs she used to play while teaching scared kids to trust the water. Tomorrow, my first student would arrive, a 7-year-old with cerebral palsy whose parents had been following my story online. They'd reached out after seeing what I was doing with the pool house, saying their daughter needed someone who understood what it meant to overcome physical challenges. Across the yard, I could see Mia's bedroom light on, her shadow pacing as she probably planned her next desperate move. But for the first time since this all started, I wasn't worried about what she might do. I had security cameras, witnesses, and most importantly, purpose. While she'd been chasing views, I'd found something much more valuable, a way to honor Mom's legacy and help others heal. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well and doing good. The morning my first student arrived changed everything. Emma, the 7-year-old with cerebral palsy, came wheeling up the pool house ramp with wide, nervous eyes. Her mom looked equally anxious, clutching their bag of swim gear like a lifeline, but the moment they saw Marcus's daughter's murals, something magical happened. Emma's face lit up. "Look, Mommy, the dolphins are dancing!" I was still using one crutch. My legs weren't fully back to normal yet, but somehow that made Emma more comfortable. "You had hurt legs like me," she said, pointing to my limping gait. "But you can swim now?" The hope in her voice brought tears to my eyes. "Yes, and soon you'll be swimming too." Her smile could have powered the whole pool house. Mia watched from her bedroom window as more families started arriving for consultations. Word had spread through the special needs community about a pool program that catered to kids with different abilities. By the end of the week, I had 10 regular students. Each success story felt like a tiny piece of Mom's legacy coming back to life. The real shock came when one of Mia's old victims reached out, a girl from her high school days, Tracy, who'd been hospitalized after one of Mia's harmless pranks went wrong. She was now a physical therapy student and wanted to volunteer at our pool program. "I saw what you're doing," she told me, "turning something painful into something helpful. I want to be part of that." Dad started spending his enforced leave of absence helping around the pool house. At first, it was awkward. Neither of us knew how to bridge the gap his years of neglect had created. But then, Emma's mom mentioned needing help adjusting the new mobility lift we'd installed. Dad, it turned out, was good with tools. Really good. Soon he was upgrading all our equipment, making it safer and easier to use. Mia's latest crisis hit when her bank accounts were frozen due to suspected fraud. Apparently, she'd been taking pre-orders for a premium content course that never existed. Susan's hysteria reached new levels. "How will this look to my clients? My daughter can't even access her own money." But Mia's response was different this time. Instead of planning another scheme, she just sat by her window, watching our growing community of swimmers and their families. The local news picked up our story, but not because of Mia's viral infamy. They were interested in the work we were doing with special needs kids. The reporter watched Emma glide through the water for the first time without help, her parents crying happy tears poolside. "This is what healing looks like," the reporter said, not a phone camera in sight. During the interview, I talked about Mom's original program and how we were expanding it. "Everyone deserves to feel safe in the water," I said, using Mom's favorite phrase. The camera caught Dad in the background, teaching another parent how to use our specialized equipment. He looked more like his old self than he had in years. That evening, something unexpected happened. Mia came to the pool house door, alone, without her phone. She looked smaller somehow, more real in her plain clothes and unmade face. "I found this," she said, holding out a USB drive. "It's all my old videos, the ones I deleted but backed up. All the evidence of everything I did." Her hands were shaking. Maybe Tracy's right. Maybe it's time to turn painful things into something helpful. I took the drive, remembering all the hurt those videos represented. But looking past Mia to the pool where Emma had taken her first independent strokes that morning, I realized something. All that pain had led me here, to continuing Mom's work, to helping kids find their strength in the water. "There's a parent support group meeting here tomorrow," I said. "They're learning about water safety for kids with special needs. You could come, maybe help set up chairs or something." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But as I watched Mia nod and walk away, her shoulders straighter like she'd put down a heavy burden, I understood that healing comes in many forms. Sometimes it looks like a child finding freedom in the water. Sometimes it looks like a father rediscovering his purpose. And sometimes, just sometimes, it looks like a former influencer learning to live without filters. 6 months after Emma's first swim lesson, our pool house had become something none of us expected. We now had 30 regular students, 3 certified therapists, and a waiting list that grew longer each week. The underwater murals had expanded to cover every wall, telling stories of courage and perseverance. Each child added their own painted handprint when they achieved a new swimming goal, creating a rainbow of triumph around the pool. Mia's transformation was slower, more complicated. She started by just setting up chairs for meetings, staying quiet in the background. Some parents recognized her from the viral video, their suspicious glances following her every move. But she kept showing up, day after day, doing whatever needed to be done without complaint. No phone, no camera, no performative good deeds for social media. Just simple, honest work. The turning point came during one of our special needs swimming competitions. Little Emma was attempting her first full lap without assistance, and her legs started cramping halfway through. Before anyone could react, Mia was in the water, fully clothed. She didn't try to be a hero or take over. She just floated beside Emma, talking softly. "You've got this. Take your time. Remember your breathing like Sarah taught you." Emma finished the lap on her own, and the look of pride on her face was worth more than 1,000,000 views. Dad's real estate business was slowly recovering, but he seemed less interested in selling houses now. He'd found his calling helping us adapt equipment for our students' different needs. One day, I caught him showing Susan pictures of Mom teaching her first special needs class. "She used to say that water doesn't judge," he explained, his voice thick with emotion. "It holds everyone the same way." Susan, who'd stopped wearing designer clothes and perfect makeup, actually listened. Tracy, the former victim of Mia's high school pranks, had become our lead physical therapy consultant. She and Mia's first interaction was tense. Years of hurt don't disappear overnight. But during a difficult session with a traumatized student who was afraid of water, they found common ground. "I know what it's like to be afraid," Mia told the child, while Tracy demonstrated gentle floating techniques. "But I also know what it's like to learn to trust again." The legal consequences of Mia's influencer career weren't going away. She had to declare bankruptcy, her debts too massive to manage. The court ordered her to do community service, which she was already doing voluntarily at our pool house. When the judge asked about her progress, our students' parents wrote letters of support. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement of change. Even Tracy added her voice. She's learning to use her influence for something meaningful. One evening, while we were cleaning up after lessons, Mia found Mom's old lesson planning notebook. She wrote about every student, Mia said, turning the pages carefully. Every small victory, every breakthrough. She looked at me, her eyes clear and present in a way they never were during her influencer days. "I spent years documenting everything, but I never actually saw anyone. Not really." The local disability advocacy group asked us to host their annual water safety workshop. Families came from all over the state, filling our pool with laughter and determination. During the event, a mother approached me, holding a tablet. "Isn't this the girl who—" she started, showing me one of Mia's old prank videos. Before I could respond, Emma paddled over in her specially adapted floating device. "That's Miss Mia," she called out. "She helps me be brave in the deep end." The mother looked confused, glancing between the tablet and Mia, who was patiently spotting a nervous teenager through his first backstroke. The difference between the polished, cruel influencer and the quiet, helpful pool assistant was striking. People can change, I said simply. Sometimes they just need to find their real purpose. That night, after everyone had gone home, I found a new addition to our wall of handprints. In small letters under Emma's bright blue print, someone had written, "Courage isn't about never being scared. It's about learning to swim anyway." The writing was Mia's, but the words were pure Mom. Looking at that wall, at the physical proof of all our small victories and big breakthroughs, I realized we were all learning to swim in our own way. 1 year after the viral pool incident, we held a special celebration at our pool house. Not for the views or likes or shares that had once dominated our lives, but for something far more meaningful. Emma was going to swim in her first proper competition. The pool deck was packed with families, therapists, and supporters, all wearing t-shirts with our new logo, a simple wave design with Mom's favorite saying, "Water holds everyone the same way." Mia helped Emma adjust her swimming cap, their ritual before every practice session. The girl who once filmed people's worst moments for entertainment now specialized in capturing their best ones. Not for social media, but for our students' private progress records. Her camera work had a different purpose now, helping therapists track improvements and parents celebrate real milestones. Dad stood by the pool's edge, triple-checking the safety equipment he'd modified for the event. The real estate business was officially handed over to his partner. He'd found his true calling designing adaptive swim gear. Susan helped coordinate our parent support groups, her talent for organization finally used for something worthwhile. The designer handbags were gone, replaced by practical clothes ready for pool splashes. Before Emma's race, our whole pool family gathered for a group photo. Tracy, now our full-time physical therapy director, insisted on setting the timer herself. "Some things you need to do without a filter," she said, making Mia laugh despite herself. The resulting picture showed something extraordinary, a community built from the ashes of viral fame, stronger for having weathered the storms together. Emma's race was everything we'd hoped for and more. As she pushed off from the wall, every face around the pool held the same expression of nervous excitement. She wasn't the fastest swimmer, but she was the most determined. When she touched the final wall, the cheers were deafening. Through my happy tears, I saw Mia crying too. Real tears, not the perfect ones she used to manufacture for views. During the celebration afterward, Grandpa Richard pulled me aside. "Your mother would be so proud," he said, watching Emma show off her medal to a group of younger students. "Not just of this place, but of you. You took something broken and made it whole again." He nodded toward Mia, who was helping a new student into a flotation device. "All of it." That evening, after everyone had gone home, I found Mia sitting by the pool, her feet dangling in the water, the same spot where she'd once plotted viral videos, now a place of quiet reflection. "I found my last sponsor contract today," she said as I sat beside her. "They wanted me to do more pranks, bigger stunts. I really thought that was the only way to be somebody." "And now?" I asked, watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold. She gestured to the wall of handprints, to Emma's medal hanging in our display case, to the thank you cards from parents covering our bulletin board. "Now I know there are better ways to make a mark on the world." The next morning, I arrived early to find Dad already there, setting up for our newest student, a teenager who'd lost the use of his legs in an accident. The boy looked terrified, but Emma was there too, showing him her collection of swimming badges. "The water's like a big hug," she told him, repeating the words I'd once used to comfort her. "It holds everyone the same way." As I watched them work together, Dad adjusting the lift, Mia checking the safety equipment, Tracy preparing for the therapy session, and Emma sharing her own journey, I realized something profound. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives become doorways to our greatest purpose. That viral video of me drowning could have been an ending. Instead, it became a beginning. Mom's presence was everywhere, in the laughter echoing off the pool walls, in the triumph on our students' faces, in the way we'd all learned to see past surface reflections to the deeper truth beneath. The pool house she'd once used to teach scared kids to swim had become something even more special, a place where broken spirits learned to float, where damaged relationships found healing, and where every ripple told a story of redemption. The views didn't matter anymore. The likes were forgotten. What remained was real and lasting, a family rebuilt, a community strengthened, and a legacy honored. In the end, we all learned the same lesson. It's not about going viral. It's about making waves that lift everyone higher.